You're listening to the Prepper Recon podcast. For questions, comments, and podcast archives, go to prepperrecon.com. I've personally been buying gold and silver from JM Bullion for over 2 years. They offer the best prices over spot that I can find, and I've never had a problem with an order. If you're looking to trade in some of your fiat paper for real money, check out jmbullion.com today. Hi, Preppers and Patriots. This is the second half of my interview with Gary Collins of the Primal Power Method. Enjoy the show.
What I did is once I sold my house and I went to this and rented this cottage, I only planned to be there for a couple years. I ended up living in that cottage 4.5 years. What it did is by the time I sold the house, sold all my belongings, I cut down my monthly expenses by 2/3. That's right, people. You heard me. 2/3. I all of a sudden had a heck of a lot more money to put away than I did before.
So once you did that, a 2-month emergency fund turned into a 6-month emergency fund by cutting your expenses by 2/3.
Exactly right. I just by doing that without putting any more money in that emergency fund, I'd already created a 6-month cushion just by that move. Now, was it a little painful? Sure. As anything in life is, and I talk about that, it is painful because it's different. It's not that it's wrong. It's not that it's going to cause you long-term pain. It's short-term pain for long-term gain. That's how I put it. I rented a place. It was perfect. The landlords were excellent. It had a yard so I could keep my dogs. They love dogs. It was easy. It was out in the sticks a little bit. So it allowed me to – that 4.5 years allowed me to come up and finalize my plan, put the money away, get rid of even more stuff. I kept getting rid of stuff. And I even sold tools. Before I went up there, I sold tools that I didn't want to haul. You know, they were just too big, too cumbersome, too old. I had to whittle down the tools too in certain things and said it's not worth moving that stuff. I'll rebuy it once I get up there. I need a newer version of that anyway. So that was part of it as well. And so, yeah, I mean, it was interesting on how I did it because I would say it wasn't any genius plan by any stretch. I would never give myself that much credit. It was more of what did I want to get out of my life? What direction did I want to go? And the priority was less financial stress, less emotional stress, and simplification. That's what it boiled down to in the end. That's where I wanted to go. Now, you may have different goals. I don't know, and I talk about that too, that just because I did it the way I did it doesn't necessarily mean that's the way you're going to do it. That's the thing about off-the-grid living too, or more remote living. Everyone does it differently. I've never met one person or two people who have done it exactly the same. It's not living in suburbia. It's not living in a tract home. The rules are totally different, and it is basically your dream. You know, a tract home in a residential neighborhood is not your dream. You usually get 3 to 5 choices. You get some color choices. That's it. You know, that's your choice. With an off-the-grid project, you're starting from scratch. You know, I created my own building plans. It wasn't off the shelf. Everything I did is technically considered custom because there was nothing that I bought that was pre-canned. I had to come up with it, which is difficult, but in the end, it's going to end up being my dream home. And it'll cost a fraction of if I did it in say, a city or a major metropolitan area, and yet it's going to have 20 acres attached to it. It's going to be quiet. It's going to be what I want it to be. And I think that's pretty cool. Like I said, it just depends what you want to do and what you have to do to survive. Are you an entrepreneur? Are you going to have to work still in the city you're attached to? Are you looking to get a different job? Are you going to homestead and try and make a living off that? There's so many different angles to it. I mean, some people just live off the land. I mean, in Alaska, people move up there and get 100 acres, and they live purely off what's on the land. It just depends. And that's why I couldn't write the book specifically to give you a specific template. This is how you're going to do it. You know, you buy your land, you build a certain house, it's this size, it's, you know, oriented this way, this is a solar. I couldn't do that. I had to put in what I did with options, basically.
What did you do for water?
That was the first thing. And that's another important factor is after you buy the land, or as you're buying the land, I should say, the factor you have to put in is water. I've said this many times. If you do not have water access on your property, you just bought a very expensive camping site, the dry camp. Basically, that's what you did. Without running water, now there are certain parts of the country where you can do, rain collection and things like that, but that's not as easy as people think. There's a whole lot going on there. You still have to filter it. You probably should have some sort of UV filter or some way of purification because it is running through pipes. There's bugs, there's debris that can get in there.
Well, the birds poop on your roof.
Exactly. That's what I mean. There's micro organisms that are going to get, so that isn't straightforward and simple. So it depends where you're at again too. And so I said, well, what I'm going to do is drill a well first because I knew there was water around there. I contacted 3 drilling companies, all very good. I picked the biggest one. It was the most expensive bid, but they had done the most of the more remote wells like mine. And they had the trucks that could do deep well drilling quickly. So they could drill a deep well in 2 to 3 days as opposed to taking weeks or even months with a smaller rig, because they don't have the capabilities of drilling at a quick rate. So I did that. I had the drilling companies come out and give me bids, say, yeah, we there's water around here. We did our survey. Other people have wells around here, so we're pretty sure we know where the depth is. We have an idea, and that's how it works. They pretty much, a good drilling company will know. So the video's up on YouTube, and it shows us dragging the drilling rig up with a dozer because it got stuck. My property, the road in is very difficult. So we had to drag up the drilling rig, and that was another thing. You better find a company if you're that remote like I was and that bad of roads, that they're going to allow you to drag their multi-$100,000 drilling rig up a mountain. That's a big piece of money that you're dragging with a bulldozer. So they were nice, and we got it up there, and I drilled the well, and I've got great water. But that was the first step. If I didn't have water, my project was done. And I was fully aware of that. So there is some risk involved by doing it the way I did it. I knew more than likely there was water on the property. Water's never for certain. It just isn't. And drilling wells today is expensive. I'm glad I drilled mine 3.5 years ago as opposed to today. And not only that, but there's getting more and more regulations on private drilling, and they're actually stopping a lot of parts of the country from allowing people to drill private wells. It's coming. They're starting to control the water. And wells were our last bastion of getting our own water. So now they're starting to regulate that and make it more difficult. So I have even a chapter about water rights. I even write about that in the book because that's going to be the biggest stumbling block in the beginning you're going to run into. I have people around me who haul water. Anyone who hauls water knows it is a pain. It is not fun. And if you in cold weather, if it's snow on the ground, how are you going to get that tank up there? How are you going to drag that 250, 500 gallon tank up to your property in 4 foot of snow? Yeah, those are things you got to think about. And those are the things. That's why I wrote the book too. Is a lot of people I talked to who are looking into it hadn't even thought of that. They said, water? Oh, I thought you just bought the lot. No. You have to find the water. And if you want to avoid that, you can buy properties with the well already on there that's already been tested, it's full ready to go. It tells you how many gallons per minute, tells you, what's in the water. It's already been tested by the county. The thing is, you're going to get upcharged. You're going to probably pay a third up to double what that well costs them to put in. So it's security, but it comes with an upcharge. So there is a way to get around it. I did look at those lots. They're just really expensive. That's what investors do on lots, is they put in a well so they can make more money off the property. I can't fault them for that. The water's there. It's ensuring that you're getting water. So yeah, as people are probably going, oh my God, this is way more complicated than I ever thought. And yes, it is.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
In the Days of Elijah, Book 2, Wormwood, by best-selling author Mark Goodwin. Everett and Courtney Carl have survived the 7 seal judgments, which devastated the planet, but have their efforts to stay alive been in vain? The next series of judgments to fall upon the earth are known as the 7 trumpets. Within this series of cataclysms is the Earth's collision with a giant asteroid known as Wormwood. The comet will poison much of the planet's freshwater supplies, making survival nearly impossible. With each subsequent trumpet judgment, their odds of living grow slimmer. If Everett and Courtney are to survive, they'll need perseverance, faith, and a great outpouring of providence from the Almighty. Buy your copy of The Days of Elijah, Book 2, Wormwood, in paperback, Kindle, or audio edition from Amazon.com today.
What'd your well cost?
My well total, and this is everything. This is pump, installed, the casing, drilling, everything. It was about $25,000. It was more than the land. So that well today would probably cost me closer to $30,000 to $35,000.
And that's probably typical for mountains.
Well, it's typical anywhere. They didn't upcharge me for the mountains. They didn't, because you're paying per foot, linear foot of how you drill. So there's a set price per each foot they go down. And they didn't upcharge me because I was more remote. They could have, don't get me wrong. They can definitely upcharge you for that. But I think it was around, I averaged, it's anywhere from 30, looking in other parts of the country, talking to other people and getting my other bids. It can roll anywhere from $30 to $50 complete per foot. I had to drill 510 feet to get to the proper water level that I needed. And there's a static line in there. As far as static is how far the water goes up the casing and where it stops. That's called, and that's all that water in that pipe is water you can use. And there's ways they time it so they know how fast it fills up. So you could have a low, as far as say gallons per minute. It could be low. Say it's mine's like 3. No, I think mine's 1.5 to 2. I can't remember now. I'd have to look at my paperwork. It was low, but my static line was like 250 feet after less than 24 hours. So I had 250 feet of my casing pipe filled with water overnight. So I had all that water in that pipe that I could use. So that kind of offsets the gallons per minute that is flowable water that you can pump. So that's what I mean. I wrote about, I have all that described in there on how to drill, drilling your well goes, understanding the cost and all that. So that's what I did. I drilled a well because, first of all, I didn't have a stream running through there. I'm in Northeast Washington. There's not as much rain as Western Washington. It's far drier. It's more of a drier climate. So to use rain catchment system, I could do it, but I would rather have a well. It's just more convenient. So I can live the way I'll live pretty close to a normal residential house. The things I'm going to live without are central heating and cooling. That's it. But the heat is taken care of through a stove, a wood-burning stove. And by code, I have to have a propane or natural gas heater that can be used at any time, permanently installed. So I have that. And then for cooling, it doesn't get that hot. And my house is well insulated. So it's one of those, I probably, if I had to, I could stick in one of those roller coolers. My solar system will support that in full middle of the day heat. I can run a little portable cooling system, no problem. If I had to in the upper stairs, the lower stairs, it doesn't get that hot, ever. So it would just be the upstairs where I would have to run that.
So you got a 2-story?
I do. It's a very tall 3-story, and this is a perfect example of building to what you want. My property has really amazing views, but to utilize them, I had a very small building area. So I couldn't spread the house out wide. I had about a 25 by 25 roughly building area that made sense. Anything beyond that, I would be blocking. I'd have to push dirt and retaining walls. It would make it far more complicated and far more expensive. So I said, you know what? I'll build a 20 by 20 two-story. And that's what I did with a loft. So it ended up being roughly, it's around, I haven't had to measure. I had to change some things inside, but it's around 1,000 to 1,100 square foot total. So it's a little bigger than most off-the-grid places, but I wanted it big enough to where people could visit. Friends could come up, have a place. So it has 2 bathrooms, 1 upstairs, 1 downstairs. So those things. But you don't need to do that. You can build a 500 square foot tiny home if you want. There's so many different ways to go. But that's what I built, and I used a product called Fazwall, which is, it's a brick that is 85% wood chip with 15% concrete. Well, it has high insulation value. That's why I used that. Yeah, and it's got 3-inch foam on the inside of the brick facing outside. And then I 2x4 framed the inside. All this is on YouTube. You guys, you're really interested in seeing how this thing went up. You'll see it. You'll see it step by step how everything went to include my horrible contractor number 2 who I had to fire. But I fixed it. That was all last year, fixing all of his screw-ups and his mess that he created. But yeah, I talk about different building types in the book too. And the first question I get is, well, what would you recommend as a house or building style if you could do it over, or you had, I told them a log kit. A cabin kit's the easiest way. A log cabin kit is by far the easiest way to go. There's a ton of companies that do them now. They're very affordable. If you get something in the 1,000 square foot range, I think my friend paid $39,000 for her 1,100 square foot kit. And it's beautiful. I mean, the cabin is beautiful.
And then you can find contractors to put those together for you.
Exactly. So you're just getting the kit. You still have to hire the contractor and pay them to put the kit together.
And it's no well, and it's no electric, and there's no.
No, and with her house was different because it's actually someone I grew up with. In my little small town in California, she lives in the town next to me now. We didn't even know. Her and her family that I grew up down the street from, they live 15 miles away from me up there. They're right by me. But she's tied to utilities. She's not off the grid. So to bring in a kit, if you're not off the grid and you have utilities ran out there, she still had to drill well. She did drill well, but she has cable, phone, and power run to the property. And that makes it easier too.
What do you have for power?
I have a solar array that I've put together through a company called Backwoods Solar. Nothing related to Backwoods Home Magazine. It's a similar name. They're in Sandpoint, Idaho, and I think they have 2 more places. One's in Oregon, and I'm thinking maybe in Arizona. I believe they have 2 or 3 offices. And what they do is they put together the package for you. They don't do any of the installation. They just give you all the pieces that you need. And they give you the phone support that if you want to do it yourself, they'll literally walk you through the process of the installation. It's a great company. They've been around a long time. And so I put together a solar system. I plan to put in my wind turbine this summer, if I can do it as a supplement to my system. I just got my system approved through the county this last summer, and that was interesting. I found out when the guy came out, he goes, I've done a handful of these my entire life, to where someone went and got the permit pulled, did it all the code, and got all my stickers and sign-offs through the county that my solar system is 100% approved. I had an electrician help me, but I'm running pure solar right now with a 48-volt system with 8 6-volt batteries, basically, daisy-chained, and 6 panels. So I'm running 1.8 kilowatts is the max, because I only have the 6 300-watt panels. But your formula on that is basically you'll get half that in optimal situations. depending. That's how you factor it out. I have actually the formulas. I wrote all the formulas and gave you the websites in the book too. You can go to this website and it will tell you what part of the country you live in, to how much sunlight you'll get, and gives you the percentage of a system, the math, how to do it. So I kind of outlined everything for people. I tried to make it as easy to follow as possible because, like I said, I had to research all this stuff, and it took me years, literally years and a lot of money to figure this stuff out. But I run pure solar, but I talk about hydro because I had to research that. I talk about geothermal and how those systems work, solar, and wind power. So I have all four of those outlined in the book and what they do, the differences between them, and how you utilize them. Usually, to have the best system, you want not just one, you want to be able to use two if you can. So that's why I'm going to have the wind system. I have a lot of wind. I'm at the top of the hill. So I have good wind up there. So it makes sense to supplement my solar system with wind. And then also you have a backup generator. And that's another thing. Through code, I couldn't get my system approved without a backup generator. So doing things by code, and that's what makes my project unique too, is I'm one of the few people out there who built this and did this all to local and county code. There is nothing on my property that is unapproved or is an ad hoc building or system. It has all been approved and all been inspected.
Gary, that's fantastic. I'm so glad you put all these resources together for folks to just jump past that learning curve, that they can, get the paperback or get the Kindle and read this and just save so much time and money in research and mistakes. Mistakes are so expensive. And I think it's fantastic. So tell the folks where they go to get your book.
You can get my book at primalpowermethod.com, which is my own website. You can also purchase it. I have a hard copy and a PDF download on my website. And then you could go to Amazon and get the hard copy there, or the Kindle version is also available on that. And I have a web or a place for you to go. If you go to primalpowermethod.com/off-grid resources, that will get you 2 free downloads that kind of get you started in the process. And also in the book, I give you a basic resources list to my area. So at the back of the book, because a lot of people in my area do this, and a lot of people are interested in my area. So I put together a resource list of the companies and the products that I used in basically Washington, Oregon, and Idaho area, that most of them will go to those areas. So that's also in there as well.
Gary, thanks so much for making time for us today.
Hey, thanks a lot. Oh, I forgot one thing. Got a new podcast, Old Dudes, New Tricks. That's our new podcast I'm doing with a buddy of mine. One last plug. We went to boot camp together in the military, so we've known each other a long, long time.
Fantastic.
So go
and
check
that's
that
on
out.
iTunes?
Yep. That is on iTunes and our website, olddudesnewtricks.com.
Ready-Made Resources has a limited number of PVS 30 night vision scopes for $4,700. These are the top-of-the-line night vision scopes used by the U.S. military, which normally sell for over $11,000. Turn your 12-hour rifle into a 24-hour rifle. Visit Ready-Made Resources to get your PVS 30 today.